strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for
kind of animal?
If that was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in.
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that have been joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis Prograis. I'd love that. Sounds like a
old. I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then
that would say, what do you mean by acting flat? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows.
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now, and he ain't gonna fight. I bet you anything, he's not gonna fight somebody as good as John Whyte.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Roundtable. We are back, as always, with another great all-star panel. We have my partner in crime, D-Style Boxing, in the house, as always. And we have Vivo making his comeback after a long absence. Welcome back, Manny. Nice to have you back.
Thank you for having me back.
My man, partner in crime as well, Mario Munguia. And we have UK's finest, Danny Glover. Let's get right into it. Lots of breaking news today, last minute. I mean, I was scrambling, you know, changing the topics of this show because things just kept popping in my boxing news feed, and you know, I had to adjust. But one thing that was surprising to me was Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte finally got over the line today. It is official, and I was having second thoughts on whether or not this fight was going to happen. And I was thinking about this fight, and it kind of reminded me back to when Joshua was getting ready to fight Andy Ruiz first time. And all everyone was talking about was Deontay Wilder. And now we're in this similar situation. I don't want to say the same situation. We're in a similar situation where Joshua is going to be fighting Whyte, but the light at the end of the tunnel, once again, is Deontay Wilder. And Eddie Hearn came out today and said, if Joshua loses to Whyte, the Deontay Wilder fight is off. So, Danny, I want to start with you. What do you think of this fight? Is this a good move, bad move? Are they jeopardizing the bag in the winter? What are your thoughts, man?
No, I think this is a good fight. But obviously, they see it as a tune-up. Dillian Whyte, on resume, you would think he's not a tune-up. But if you're going by his last few performances, his punch resistance has looked very faded. So it is really a tune-up. I expect Anthony Joshua to possibly stop him. I knew the fight was signed and sealed from Sunday, as I've got a connect who's in 258 management, part of Team AJ, hangs with him all the time. So he, you know, gave the scoop on the Neutral Corner podcast, and that dropped today. So, yeah, I knew the fight was signed from Sunday, and that it was going to get announced today. But, yeah, I think the fight is a good fight for him. His last fight was last year. He had a fight earlier this year, Anthony Joshua with Jermaine Franklin. He's getting 3 fights this year because he's got Dillian Whyte in August, and then he's going to have Deontay Wilder as they're scheduling that for December. So I think this is a good time. If you're going in with Deontay Wilder, you can't be ring rusty. You need to, you know, be in with an active live fighter. Sparring is a lot different to bouts. And I think this will sharpen AJ up because he's going to need it if he's going in with Wilder. Because, yes, Wilder is very limited, but that 1-2, hey, that's a 1-2.5 right there. So, yeah.
Manny, could this be a possible banana skin for Anthony Joshua? Because there's a lot of pressure, right? It's always pressure when you have another fight waiting in the wings before the fight that you're going into. And we've seen it happen a couple times. Roy Jones, one example. And Joshua, you know, was supposed to fight Wilder at one point too, but then the Andy Ruiz kind of upset the apple cart. Could it happen again?
It could happen again. Anything can happen again, but I don't think this is like the Andrew Ruiz fight because AJ has been preparing for this Dillian Whyte rematch for a couple of months already because it was already in talks. Whereas Andy Ruiz was a last-minute replacement due to Jarrell Miller popping, so he wasn't accustomed or training for that type of fighter or body dynamics. He was training for a big 300-plus pounder who is a lot taller and fights a lot different to Andy Ruiz, where AJ's been in with Dillian Whyte twice, once in the amateurs, once in the pros, and he's been training specifically for Dillian Whyte for the last couple of months now. And I think with a better trainer in Derek James, I think he's going to be a lot more prepared. And I don't think it's a bigger banana skin. And we know, as I said before, Dillian Whyte I think is a very faded fighter compared to someone like Andy Ruiz back in when they first fought. So yeah.
Manny, do you agree with Danny here, or do you think that Dillian Whyte could pose some problems?
I mean, I think I agree. I totally agree. I mean, I think that most likely Dillian Whyte will fight much better than Jermaine Franklin. And both of them, were able to fight them and, came in victorious. So is he washed out? He is. I mean, he's just kind of cashing out and he's having some opportunities. And this is a great chance for, to Anthony Joshua to kind of relive his love for the sport. I think he has lost it now with as Danny mentioned there, with Derek James. By the way, he's going to be very, 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 very busy, Derek James, in the next few months. But, right now, that momentum that's got the gym, I mean, I think that he can definitely use this for him to rejuvenate his career. He knows. He's got to know that he loses to Dillian Whyte, it's done. That's it. There's nothing else out there. Eddie Hearn will be completely crushed if that happens. And I think people really want to see that big major fight against, whoever's the winner of Ruiz and a Wilder or even Wilder. That's always been talked about even since AJ started to grow and started to become world champion. So good opportunity for him. I think he will showcase. It'll be great if he gets a knockout that completely boosts his confidence level. Anything that he lost against John Ruiz and then he lost it against Usyk, and it's been a mental battle for Anthony Joshua, and it'll be a really, really good comeback to see how he can cope with the future of his career.
Mario, these last couple fights been an emotional roller coaster ride for Anthony Joshua, and these two have history together. There's some bad blood. They kind of get under each other's skin. But with Joshua's back up against the wall, how is he going to handle this pressure? Because it's do or die.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. How he handles that pressure, it's impossible to say, of course, right? But that goes into the point itself of why this fight is necessary. AJ did have what I think you can equate to like a mental lapse is what we'll call it for now, but it was a weird and somewhat scary scene after in his post fight with Usyk, and it was clear that his head just didn't seem like it was on straight. I've been a fan of AJ, as long as I can remember, probably as long as he's been a pro for sure. And what I can say is that I always felt like he had the edge in the Wilder fight, always. So going into this, he needs to accomplish a few things. One, he needs a fight under Derek James. It would be a mistake to go into a fight with your arch rival, okay, the Joker to your Batman, all right, the Thanos to your Iron Man, and it be the first time that you've ever experienced a fight camp with this trainer, especially because I feel like he's so much different than the trainer he had. So when you look at that, you also have to look at the fact that he is fighting a nemesis. Is he going to be able to keep his head on straight? Is he going to be able to focus and keep his eyes on the prize? That is an important thing, because if he can't do that, he should not go into a fight with one of the most dangerous punchers in the history of the sport if he's not there. And if he can't beat Whyte, then I don't think that, the Wilder fight's a good idea anyway. So he needs this.
That's what Eddie said. Eddie said the same exact thing you just said. So D-Style, Joshua's doing something a little different for this fight. He's actually training exclusively in the United States and Texas, which is something he didn't do for his fight against Usyk the second time around when he had Robert Garcia, and that was the big problem because he needed to get away. Got away this time. He's changing the scenery. Will that help change his mindset going into this fight? Because he's had some confidence issues in these last couple fights.
I'm not too sure. Look, he's going to look better in this fight than he did against the Usyk fight because Whyte's not as good as Usyk. So, I mean, let's say he goes out and he blows Dillian Whyte away. I'm still not going to know. I mean, maybe if I watch the fight, maybe, but maybe I could tell a little bit. But I'm not going to be sure of it. How much this has to do with training with Derek James versus how he did his training camp against Usyk the second time. I thought he looked good in the second fight against Usyk, quite frankly. I just think Usyk did better, right? I think I saw adjustments. I thought he did better than the first time. I don't think Joshua looked bad. It just Usyk just did better that night, right? He just has a style that's real difficult for Joshua to beat. But just in general, yes, it's good to train exclusively with your head trainer. Yes, it's good to get away from the scenery and just have a fight camp, a full fight camp. You know, it doesn't really matter where it is, but in this case, the trainer's in the U.S., and I think he's going to feed off some of that energy of Errol Spence is around, and I don't know about Ryan, but you know, you have Jermall around, and you know, he's going to feed off of some of that energy, I think, and they'll feed it off of him, and it's good to be around stuff like that. So I think he should beat Dillian Whyte handily, quite frankly. I know there's a risk factor. I know there's a question, like, should he be doing this? Should he not be doing this? Is he putting too much at risk? Look, man, I think he's going to annihilate Dillian Whyte, quite frankly. That's just how I feel about it. I don't think it's a heavyweight division, and Whyte has a really good hook, so you can never say never. But I could confidently say AJ's going to win this fight pretty handily.
Okay. So let's move on to one of the fights this weekend. We have Jaron Ennis versus Roiman Villa. And Roiman Villa has been known to upset the apple cart. You know, big upset over Rashidi Ellis. And Ellis was supposed to be the opponent for Ennis, right? And, you know, Ennis did not look phenomenal. I mean, obviously he won every round in his last fight against Judijan, but it wasn't that same dynamic Ennis that we're used to seeing. Now, this is a tougher fighter than he was in with last time. It's a step up, right? Should he approach this fight, you know, with poise and be cerebral in this fight, right? Or should he try to go out and try to make a statement? You know, which Ennis should show up for this fight? And if the wrong Ennis shows up, could he get upset in this fight? What are your thoughts, D-Star?
Well, look, Roiman Villa is a really good fighter out of Venezuela. Good puncher. I don't know what it is about the water in South America, but they could punch. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost like when they start in the gym, they keep them around and they could hit hard or something. I'm sure there's something to that. But kind of like the Thai fighters Muay Thai fighters that have good hands, they transition them to boxing, you know. But look, I'm favoring Ennis in this fight, objectively speaking. I think he should win this fight. But I think it's going to be a tough fight. Like, I don't think this is going to be a walk in the park for Ennis. This is a step up for him. And Villa's coming to win. I saw Villa's Instagram stories after his win over, after his big win. He called out, you know, didn't really call him out, but he said, "Hey, I'll fight Boots. They say Boots can't find an opponent. I'll fight him." You know what I mean? Like, he's willing to take the challenge. You know, he's not. I guess he knows. Hey, I got nothing to lose here. Put me in the ring with him, right? And in boxing, I never want to hear a fighter say nobody wants to fight me. There's always somebody that will raise their hand and fight you, right? And Villa is obviously the win over Ellis was a surprise to me. A win over Boots would be shocking, but we can't count him out. He's got a really good knockout ratio, and I think in this fight we're going to see Boots be the matador a little more. Like, he'll probably get aggressive halfway through the fight, but we're going to see the boxing skill set of Ennis because he has to. He can't really afford to exchange like he did in some other fights against opponents that were coming off knockout losses and losing streaks. This is a guy who's confident. He's strong for the division, Villa, right? He could punch. So I am expecting Ennis to fight smart, and I think we're going to see the ring IQ of Ennis shine in this fight. And if he wins by stoppage, I foresee a late stoppage, but I do think he'll win a decision in this fight.
So, Mario, this is going to be Villa's Super Bowl, right? This is a guy, to me, looks like he's got a lot of self-belief. He showed a lot of grit and determination against Ellis, and I'm sure that's going to carry over into this fight. But the big question is, Ennis being talked about fighting for titles, bigger and better things down the road. Already those things are being mentioned, said before every fight, and this fight's no different. Could there be a lapse, just a tiny lapse? And if there is just a tiny lapse, could Villa capitalize on that?
Of course. I think that Villa's cut from the kind of cloth where I'd say it's almost the thing that he can do better than a lot of other people in the weight class. That said, I'll agree with the premise that if Boots wants to win on Saturday, and that's the most important thing to him, and he has to get this win, then going in there and boxing and being cerebral and picking his shots and being smart, hitting and not get hit. That would be the answer, of course. But I think it would be a mistake ultimately. You were in a position 24 hours ago where everybody was talking about the welterweight fight this weekend, and it wasn't yours.
Good point.
You had a mountain to climb to try to get any sort of press, any sort of publicity out of this weekend when you had such an amazing show in the Stanionis Ortiz. Now take advantage of that. Capitalize off the fact that the eyes that were going to be on that now will switch to you. Maybe not all of them, maybe some of them, maybe only a few, but it doesn't matter. You have the ability to completely steal the weekend and be the welterweight name that everybody remembers. Is it going to be a gamble for him to go in there and go toe-to-toe a little bit more? Sure, 100%. But he's bigger by 3 inches. He's got a reach by 4 or 5. So he can go in there and try to do some things and feel it out. I think early on, he's best waiting and sitting and fighting his best fight, trying to accumulate a few rounds before he goes out there and really tries to put the pressure on. Can he stop him? I don't know. But like D-Style said, these are two guys with a high percentage KO rate. And you got to get through these types of fighters to make it to that upper echelon.
So, Danny, the welterweight division is kind of tied up for maybe at least another year because we got the Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, obviously, and there's a rematch clause, right? Who knows what's going to happen after the first fight, whether either Spence or Crawford move up, we don't know. So Ennis is left in limbo here, right? What's his motivation? Like, I have a hard time thinking that Ennis may not having some sort of frustration, in the back of his mind, saying how many times do I got to fight these guys before I get to the big dogs? What is your thoughts on this fight? And do you think that could be a probability going through Ennis's head right now?
I think this is a good fight. I don't think this is going to be a problem going through Ennis's head, though. The reason why is because you have a live fighter coming in who is coming to win, because Villa, he's got that kind of complexion and fighting style which reminds me of a Marcus Maidana. So if you're not careful, this could turn into either a Maidana Broner or it could be a Maidana Floyd. Either way, Ennis getting the win is going to be a rough ride, because even when Ennis hits this guy has shown a solid chin where he and his shoulders are very big, so he looks like a guy who can take a shot, well hydrated. He looks like he's come for a hard life, so I don't see Ennis stopping him. I think it's going to be a rough ride. So even Ennis doing the whole slip and sliding, switch hitting, it's even though I know Rashidi Ellis is not a puncher compared to Ennis, I still think Villa, his durability will be walking through Ennis's shot somewhat. So he's going to have a rough run, and his defense is going to really get tested. As we've seen, he gets caught with overhand rights a lot, similar to Adrian Broner in a lot of his fights, which he got away with early doors because he was the much bigger guy. So with Boots Ennis, I don't think that the waiting on the two main dogs, because he knows that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Them guys are like a decade older than him. He might have a bit of frustration, like, I want the big dogs, similar to when Tommy Morrison was knocking out all those guys. And he's like, hey, man, when are we going to get a shot, man? You said you promised me my shot. And, you know, Rocky's telling him, you'll get it soon. So everyone knows now. It's Josh Taylor who's going to move up. He knows he's got to wait. Conor Benn's coming back. He knows he's got to wait. So everyone is in the same sort of boat that they know they've got to wait a year to 18 months because there's the super fight plus the rematch. And then after these two fight, Terence Crawford says he wants to go up and, you know, give Jermell Charlo a beating. Errol Spence says he's looking to go up and beat up Tim Tszyu and maybe fight his stablemate Charlo. So all these fighters know that after these two have their double or trilogy fight, that the belts are going to get vacated anyway, and there's going to be 4 belts out there to fight for a piece each. So it's just about the waiting game. It's not like Boots is 30 years old, 32 years old. He's 25 years old, so he's still building. He's still, you know, he's got time on his hands to wait a year. So I think it will be a good, very good acid test for him. I think this will be his toughest fight. Could it come a cropper? Yes, but I don't think it's because of lack of concentration. I just think because Villa is a very rough and tough and serious fighter.
Yeah. So Manny, Villa is he's a 12-1 underdog here. I know it sounds like I'm really downplaying him, but I'm just looking at these.
None of us better when he fought.
I mean, it really sounds like I'm downplaying the guy, but it's hard for me not to kind of look at these odds and say, like, wow, man. I mean, these odds makers can't not know something that I don't know, right? So
yeah,
it's I don't know, man. It's I know that Ennis must be looking at the headlines too. He knows that what the perception is out there, but can Villa test him though? Will this be a fight that goes the distance, or do you think Jaron, the dynamic Jaron, like I asked D-Style, you think that guy's gonna resurface in this fight?
Well, that's what he's expecting, and that's what people are also expecting, because we're talking about this, and the reason why is he didn't look that great against Chaktaksian. He did not. And so a lot of people were questioning him as part of the top maybe 4 or 5 contenders at the welterweight. For my list, one being Vergil. He's probably going to be out if he fights again, go to 154. Then you have Boot Ennis. Conor Benn's got so many issues with himself and all these PEDs and wanted to fight 160 pounders. Who knows? Alexis Rocha, Rashidi Ellis, and then here comes Villa. So I agree with you, Mario. This is the opportunity for him to really showcase himself with a strong opponent, an opponent that no one gave him a shot against Rashid. No one, not even myself. I was shocked. I do like the guy. I like Villa. He doesn't have a strong resume, but he came in to fight. So now that because he had a slight collapse in the previous fight, and now you're looking at Villa the way he performed, that's why people are kind of questioning. But at the end of the day, we're going to see Ennis' talent shine. We're going to see him overcome everything, and he's got to be a little bit cautious. He can't get too much of too confident himself, because Villa is not going to back out, and he's not going to stop, and he can definitely punch. I don't think he can knock him out, but I think Boots is stronger than that. But man, it's showtime. Stage lights are on. Mario was on point. You don't have Vergil Stanionis, which was going to take all of your attention. Now all your attention could be to you. Are you going to solidify yourself as the number 1 welterweight contender, which, by the way, his chances are better than probably a year ago? Why is that? Consolidation of a title, undisputed, get a rematch, and then in less than a year, he'll probably dominate the 147 pounds. It's just a matter of being patient, and that's what happened in the last fight. He wasn't patient enough. He wanted to prove more than what he could do at that night. It wasn't his night at 100%, and that's why people were questioning Is he really that guy? Is he really the one that's going to take the reins at 147 ahead of Virgil, ahead of the rest of the guys that I talked about? Landscape's open, man. It's all to him. And I am expecting a show. I want to say I'm probably going to see it as, I think it'll go 12 rounds. I want to see it because I want to see Boots at, with a good, solid, opponent down the stretch. If he gets the knockout, he's the man. If he doesn't, that doesn't mean anything. It just means that he continues to perform and improve in all the areas he needs to become that solid champion once things get settled in the future.
I just wanted to say that, like, can Villa be like that Darnell Boone of the welterweight division? He hurt Ellis, he won a fight. Can he maybe hurt Boots? I want to see Boots in the
that's why. And down the stretch, it'd be nice to see that. Yeah. Ennis is not Ellis, to be honest, and I think he's stronger than that. But at the same time, you're right. We want to be able to see that, and the only way to do it is with Villa. Thank you, Villa. By the way, Colombia in the house. He lives in Venezuela.
Yeah, he could be that Randall Bailey. He could definitely be that guy. But I see it as a boost.
So he is Colombian?
Yeah, he's Colombian. He just resides in
I knew it because yesterday I called him a Colombian, and the chat yesterday was killing me. Oh, he's from Venezuela. What you talking about? Like, you know what I mean? But I just want to say this. Sometimes there's fighters that maybe they don't win all those fights, but they're always in the fights.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
And I think Villa could be that guy. I really do. I do think there will be a moment in this fight where we're going to say, oh, shit. And I do think, obviously, I'm picking Boots to win. I think he'll overcome that moment. But I think all fighters, early in their career, you want to see them tested at some point. You want to see them hurt and see how they react when they're hurt, right?
Yep.
So I'm part of me kind of wants to see that happening. I do think we'll have that moment. Boone hurt Ward. He hurt Kovalev. He hurt Stevenson. He didn't win any of those fights, but he hurt them all, right? And if he does this to Boots, he will have a place in this division for sure.
Yep. Even if it's a win-win situation for him. He loses, he could get a Rashid rematch. Easy to that. Make some big money. If not, Alexis Rocha is there too. And by the way, Cody Crowley, he's still a young prospect, moving up, little by little. He's already ranked top 8, I believe. Hey, Villa could be that person that can. He's going to have a bright future, man. I'm so excited for him, and I can't wait to see it this weekend.
Yeah, I think he'll be like a Kendall Holt, Randall Bailey type guy. And as you said, D-Styles, I'd like to see him go for a crisis. And I think he is going to give Jaron Ennis a crisis, similar to what we saw OG Charles Martin do to Big Baby the other weekend. So, yeah.
That's true. That's true. So 12-1. Anyone going to put a little bit of lunch money on him?
If I was in Vegas, I'd put at least $50 to be honest, because I don't want to miss out. But hey,
I might, because I was thinking about putting some on Stanionis, even though I was going to pick Virgil. But
it's worth honestly, it's worth what's the over in that fight?
Alex saying it's 13-1 now.
Is he?
That's what he's saying. That's
it was 12-1 earlier. So
hey.
$10 makes you $130. That's cool.
Just $50 out there. So why not?
We're not all balling, Manny. Come on.
No, I'm just throwing out there something. If I lose, that's fine. If I win, then you your $500 right there. You're saying maybe
for sure.
And Manny takes 1 month long vacations. He's got fatty. He's got money. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
I wish. Fuck. Yeah, that was a good cruise though.
So. Breaking news today, and this is kind of ironic too, because Mario and I were talking about this yesterday, and I just had a bad feeling about it.
You guys jinxed it. It was you guys.
Michael Woods had a bad feeling about it, and this condition that seemed to have plagued Virgil Ortiz is rhabdomyolysis, I guess, and it's
rhabdomyolysis.
Rhabdomyolysis.
Myolysis, yes.
Yes. And
I think they call it rhabdo for short.
Rhabdo. Yep.
Yeah, we'll call it rhabdo. Make it easy. And it seems to be a condition where when you're exercising and you're breaking down the tissue, I guess what happens is the electrolytes from your muscle tissue and protein gets released into the bloodstream, and not a good thing. Puts a lot of stress on the kidneys, causes cramping, and causes you to kind of be drained and faint, right? Which happened again. And this seems to be a ongoing thing with Virgil Ortiz. And I'm not so sure that a move up to 154 will be able to solve it. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but this seemed, it happened twice, and that's a red flag. So who knows what's going to happen in the future? But this was a shocker. Where do you think Virgil Ortiz goes from here? I mean, can this be rectified, or is this just like a hereditary thing that could prevent him and could be career ending? What do you think, Mario?
My bad, I was on mute. I think that it's starting to feel that way. And I'll be honest, last night on my show, In Fighting Pod, Beeb and Mike sounded like geniuses 12 hours later. I mean, they were both adamant that something felt off, that this didn't just feel like a injury that, been hinkering or a situation that's developed a little further. No, this was something different, and they were adamant about that. And while I didn't offer any resistance to that, honestly, I didn't believe it. I was not on board. But I think it was because I didn't want to be on board. I think it's because I wanted to know that when I showed up on to San Antonio on Saturday to watch the fight, I was going to watch the best versions of both men fight. Now what I feel is that it isn't Verge at his best. And I don't know how long it's been since he's been at his best. And so is this something he can come back? Obviously, I'm not a doctor and I don't know. But I can tell you that things feel weird now. Very weird. Why did Golden Boy wait essentially about 12 hours to let the other side know after Stanionis was already in San Antonio? Why would they wait after their fighter fainted and had to be resuscitated by his father? This is serious. That's something very serious. And let's just say for a second that they thought, well, maybe he's dehydrated, or maybe it's something that's like minor he can rebound from. I don't care what the issue is. If your fighter is fainting on fight night, the week of the fight, that's it. You pull the plug. Something's wrong. Something's off. You don't just faint like that. And if you do from dehydration, then you've been cutting weight too hard or too much. And that's another aspect of this that's kind of spiraled out of control. I don't know if this is, a symptom of him cutting too much weight. I don't know if it's a symptom of something completely different from that, but Beeb said something last night that is stuck in my mind. He said that regardless of what this is medically, the process of trying to cut this kind of weight in this kind of fashion will lead to exacerbating any other issue. So to kind of like put that into context, if he's already dealing with something, right, that has nothing to do with his athleticism or boxing or any physical thing he's, brought upon himself or anything like that, then the act of trying to lose that weight hurts you anyway. Staying dehydrated for long periods of time is not good for any human being. It doesn't matter how athletically gifted they are. So if this situation spawns anything at all positive, let it be that we start to really put our foot down and say, well, you can't control steroids because you don't know when somebody tests and tests don't even pop for everything. We can control what fighters in the weight class do and how they are expected to conduct themselves within the boundaries of those weights. And there are a lot of sanctioning bodies that try different things. There are a lot of states that have certain protocols in place, but it's time for everybody to collectively say enough is enough with guys trying to cut so much weight and then balloon up. It's unfair and it's bottom line unhealthy.
I'm going to tell you something that's troubling to me. When De La Hoya tweeted that out, and I'm gonna pass this right to you, D-Style, after I make this point, because I want to hear your thoughts on this. What's troubling to me is De La Hoya automatically just tweeted out, oh, he's moving up to 154. To me, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's let this guy get an extensive medical evaluation, because if just saying I'm going to move up in weight, regardless, you're still going to put your body through a hard training camp. You're going to be putting stress. Like boxers train. It's not like going to Planet Fitness and hitting the elliptical. These guys are busting their ass. They're putting their body under such high levels of stress. So just by moving up to 154, We don't know if that's going to solve the problem, or no one really knows until this guy gets an extensive medical evaluation. And De La Hoya did something similar in the Canelo situation where he put out false medical or incorrect medical information about Canelo Alvarez. And Canelo Alvarez had to come out and check him. So I think this is just irresponsible of De La Hoya to come out and say, oh, you just move this guy up to 154 and everything's going to be okay. Am I wrong here, D-Style? You're on mute, brother.
You are absolutely not wrong. You're 100% correct. Look, I don't know if you remember, and forgive me because I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he actually joined us for a roundtable show one time. I believe his nickname's Alacran, and he 408 was on the show. 408's in the chat. He could remind me. But anyway, he was a fighter. I believe he was a Golden Boy. Went over to Top Rank, and Top Rank required him to do some testing, right, like they do with all their fighters. And they found like a hole in his brain and told him, yo, you got to retire. You know what I mean? And I always wondered, why didn't he do this testing before when he was with Golden Boy? Right? Like that was always in the back of my mind. And I was actually thinking about that right before the show. And I'm looking at the situation with Ortiz. Here's the thing. Part of me wants to be just, there's that selfish side that really wanted to see this fight. And I was really looking forward to watching Vergil Ortiz-Stanionis. It was a match made in heaven for a boxing fan, especially a hardcore boxing fan. I knew it was going to be a great fight, but thank the gods that the fight didn't go through. Right, because he clearly was not in any condition to go into a prize fight against a high-level fighter and a body puncher at that, like Stanionis. I mean, this is not hyperbole. He could have gotten killed on Saturday. If he passed out in the gym from training, what was going to happen under fight stress against a very physical fighter like Stanionis? It's kind of scary thinking about it. That's not an exaggeration. His organs are shutting down. And it's not the first time it's happened. Something's up. And I don't know what it is, but something's up. Something's wrong here. And something's wrong with Golden Boy. How do they not know Zurdo was 12 pounds over the fucking weight? Like, how do you not know this? With two former fighters, Bernard Hopkins and De La Hoya, are running this shit. It's not just two dudes that don't know shit about boxing or don't know anything about weight cuts. They could look at a fighter and know what's up, I would think, anyway. And they should be able to have people in place and kind of know what's up and what's going on. Golden Boy should have been funded some testing for Virgil Ortiz, some extensive testing. And that means a possibility that maybe they don't want to test him. And I hate to say this, but maybe they don't want to do it because they don't want to hear a doctor tell them, yo, this guy shouldn't be fighting. Maybe they're thinking with their pockets and not their hearts.
Yeah, that's
just the reality. So this situation, I remember when Damar Hamlin from the Buffalo Bills passed out in the field, and Skip Bayless tweeted out, can they really cancel the game? And everybody jumped on him. For anybody asking, can they really cancel the fight? Yes, of course. 100%. This fight should have been canceled. And I think an investigation should be done. I think we need to find out more because somebody doesn't just out of nowhere pass out. It just doesn't happen. Could you imagine if for whatever reason Virgil just didn't feel well, just told his dad, I'm going to stay in the hotel tonight. I don't really feel like going to the gym. And he kind of got a little better. Tomorrow he does the weigh-in, and then he goes into the ring like that. Just like fate had it that he just passed out before the shit happened. Because something bad could have happened on Saturday. And I'm very thankful not that this happened, but that it didn't happen in the ring in the middle of a fight. Okay, because that would have been devastating. All right, and I just want to say this: I've never hit the fact that I'm a huge fan of Virgil Ortiz. I've been a fan of Virgil Ortiz. Of course, I want him to get back to the ring, but most importantly, I want him to live a healthy life. Okay, I want him to be around for his family. I want him to live a long, prosperous life. Okay, a good quality of life, right? And we've seen what's happened to fighters, okay, in the past. So I don't want him in the ring unless he's cleared and we know for sure he'll be okay. All right. As high as I am on him, I honestly feel that if he's able to be healthy and continue his career, he was on his way to become one of the greatest Mexican American fighters of all time. I think he's a great role model for Mexican American kids out there.
Yes.
He's good for the community, and so this is devastating news. But apart from the fighting, first things first, I just hope he's all right, and I hope he recovers, and I hope Golden Boy does the right thing here and does the proper testing, like Beeb alluded to. Like, make sure this guy gets tested properly, and I agree with that 100%, Beeb.
Yeah, and something, I'm going to pass it right to you too, Manny, and maybe I'm being, speculating a little bit hard here, but this is the third time it happens, and like D-Style hinted on, it looks like they're not really. I don't want to say they're not taking it serious, but are they just taking them to the hospital and putting them on IV and just rehydrating them, or are they really looking hard and really digging deep? Are they just attributing this to hard training and not really digging deep into the medical aspect of this? Is there an underlying condition? I don't know, Manny. I'm just not 100% sure that they're going about this the right way. Excuse me. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
I think it's a component of many things. First of all, his competitiveness. Second of all, is to have a promoter such as Oscar De La Hoya. He's in deep shit right now. He's been having lots of issues around losing boxers and this and that, and that's pretty much Virgil, if you think about it. And so he's looking at it in a way from a business standpoint. How much am I losing? Is it going to happen? And I'm sure that the minute, and this is what I hate about it, because everyone has the same thought about it. The minute he probably heard it, he's like, fuck again. Not concerned about Virgil, but concerned about the losses in business he's probably going to have. And I think that's the wrong mentality. Is it real? Am I just speculating? It's just my honest opinion. And I'm always going to say it because that's what I think. On the other hand, the local, and I don't know if you guys have local boxers you follow. Some of those make it big. Some of them just stay there and just at least entertain us in boxing. But Virgil has been one of our local heroes here in Grand Prairie. Nice guy, even when he's running out there, showing that he cares for the community, getting engaged in the community chat message, in Facebook and next door neighbor, and letting himself know when he's doing out his thing out there. People love him. And I just want to say that we care for him as well. I'm not sure, but a lot of rumors came out that after his second COVID, he had COVID twice. It was one of the reasons why fights would keep postponing. But that's how apparently he had developed that condition. Looking at the thought right now, and you guys cover it perfectly. I'm not going to touch base too much on that. But the reality is, when you look at the times it's happened, it's almost about to happen at fight night. So the stress level he's causing to his body to not give him the proper nutrients you need, to give it the extra work because you may not be on track as it pertains to your weight, and you got a couple of weeks left or whatever that case may be, and that's additional stress you're putting in your body. And rhabdo, I think you perfectly said it at the beginning, those muscle fibers, when they break down, they're released into the blood, and that can cause a kidney failure. Just like Whyte D-Style said right now, your body will completely shut down. Have you seen boxers that get hit in the kidney area, right? It just paralyzes, even in the liver. These are very sensitive organs in where your body completely will shut down. And yes, I think that this time there is another opportunity because, we believe he's good. What I've heard out there, he's doing okay. But at the same time, it could be worse. So when it is enough, I'm in totally agreement with the panel. When is it enough to make sure that he's taking care physically, mentally, and his condition? And if in fact, can he box again, give him some time? Because last time when it happened, immediately they announced it real quickly.
I don't think that's enough time for that. All the medication you're putting in your body, especially you have a clean body. You're professional. You're about to become a world champion. One of the first of the four horsemen, what I call them in the welterweight. The first one I said he was going to become a world champion before Ennis, before Conor Ben, before any one of the other ones. I mean, argue that Ennis had the IBO, whatever that is. But anyway, the real Reggie, okay, in route to dominate in that. That has to take a toll on him. It'll be very, very difficult for Raymond to make a decision. Oscar De La Hoya tweeted that, and I was like, what the fuck, Oscar? I agree with you. Why now? Why do you have to take that business impulse and say, oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure the conversation went like, oh, yeah, well, if you move to 150-54, you probably can walk around 160. It'll be a lot easier to come down. No. Get this guy treated. He's a good kid, man. He's got a big mural already over there in Grand Prairie, in where I can't wait to go around there to see all the flowers that people just, because he's not in town, obviously, but I'm sure when he gets back, we're going to learn a lot more. But I think the reality is, you guys are right. He needs to get tested. He needs to have some proper procedures. Someone needs to step up, because we do not want a tragedy to happen inside the ring, unknowing it. Okay, we know that when we get in the ring, that's a possibility, but you defend yourself. But you can't defend yourself when your body shuts down. What if it just shut down right now? Your arms go down. Maybe your legs are a little wiggly. And then you get a big hit with Stanionis, like the way he knows how to do it. Is that when it's going to be enough? Right? Let's protect our guys. Do something. If the boxer doesn't want to do it, I get it. He's so competitive. He's probably thinking he wants to come back real quickly. Maybe he initiated the 154. I don't know. But the reality is, we cannot hear Virgil coming back until we know for a fact that he's doing it.
So, Danny, I'm gonna take it one step further, because we look at this father-son dynamic, and when you got the father training the fighter, and the father is depending on that fighter for an income and a quality of life, right? Same way Teofimo and his dad. Teofimo's dad knew going into that Kambosos fight that he was compromised, right? He knew that he shouldn't have put him in there. But why did he do it? Was it because he was depending on him financially? Is this a similar situation too, where you have the father becoming more, not just the father, but coming full circle and being the dependent as well now? Because when you're a kid, you depend on your dad for financial support. But now the kid's making the money, right? And the father's working for the son now, and he's depending on the son for an income. So how does that factor into the equation, if at all? Because I think it does kind of creep in a little bit, because at the last minute, he had to pass out for you to know something was wrong. There had to be some warning signs going on in that camp, in my opinion. Talk to me, Danny.
Wow, that's deep, man. That's deep. As a father, yeah. If it gets to that stage, you got to remember, with the father, yes, the child would depend on him, but the dad's gonna look at it like, I've put all this investment into you for these years, kid. You're meant to be our ticket out of such and such area, and we need the money, son. You can do it. You're strong. You're tough. You got my DNA. And that can be very detrimental, because he's going to force his son to push to limits. Even if his son's dry, the urine's like a really dark color, he's going to still push him to limits. And because he's a son, he wants to, please his hero dad. He's going to push himself to limits he wouldn't usually go if he had a normal trainer who wasn't related to him by blood. So, as you guys have alluded to, I was going to say he needs to be tested, and they need to be doing check weigh-ins on him from like at least 6 weeks out, because he's obviously clearly dehydrated himself to a degree where it's just completely injuring him, where he can have kidney failure. He's fainting on the floor. He's ended up in hospital last time out. And as D-Style said, you can't be having these medical problems and being put into a ring with a guy like Stanionis, who we know is a proper rough and tumble type guy, because that can end up in a fatality. unfortunately, yes, he is a great prospect, but if it's to the detriment of his life and health, sometimes you just got to pull the plug on your career. If 154, 160 is not the reason, you just got to pull the plug on the career. Everyone will say he could have been a champion, he would have been champion, but for health and medical reasons, he had to retire early and he couldn't make it. And guess what? Him and his dad should be financially fine, because those sanctioning bodies like Mauricio Suleiman talk about why they're taking that 3%. Surely some of that money would go into helping him out on rehabilitating his life and going down a new career path after he can no longer box anymore due to medical grounds. But I think he definitely needs to be thoroughly medically tested, put through more than just a little MRI scan. He needs to go through full medical research testing, and when he fights, he needs to be check weighed from 6 weeks out every week, because he's clearly doing something. Because remember, if this is 2 days out from the fight, this is fight week. Right now, you would be tapering down in your training. He's not going full blast, burning it up hills and doing 12 rounds sparring and 12 rounds of pads. This is taper down week. All he's got to do is just balance himself out, tick over, have light meals, and keep his water up, or keep his, the sodium level in the water's down. And he should be fine. But if he's passing out 2 days before, he could have, say it was yesterday and it was a public workout. Who knows if he wouldn't have passed out in that public workout? How embarrassing would that have been? So if you're passing out 2 days the day before you're weighing, when you're meant to be tapering down, then what's going on inside that camp? Are they putting you in sweatsuits in sauna or on a spin bike? What are they doing? What's your dad doing to you? Because this could come under, I know he's an adult, but it could come under somewhat child abuse in what his dad's doing to him to make him make this 147. But I don't know if even because 154, yeah, you say 154, but what's 7 pounds really? How much is that really? How much is he weighing when he just fainted on the floor today? He probably was 154 right now, because he'd still have to take off another 7 pounds in by tomorrow. So I don't think 154 is even going to help him. And I see, when he's out of the ring, he's got a very big head, big body. So he probably walks around at about 190. So yeah, I think that camp, his dad, his team, and his promotional company need investigating, because yes, Oscar De La Hoya, he is going to throw him in regardless, because guess what? He doesn't have a deep stable. He's too busy throwing shots at Eddie Hearn, trying to score points on DAZN, but he doesn't have a deep stable himself. So this is why he's put all his eggs into the Ortiz basket, because he hasn't got guys like Canelo on the roster to back him up. Boots Ennis is not on his roster. So if Ortiz is off the card, Oscar's really off the card. Bernard Hopkins is really off the card, because these guys have made weight. None of them fought a heavyweight. They fought at weights where you have to make weight. Bernard Hopkins, you've seen him looking quite skinny at weigh-ins and cheekbones out. Oscar De La Hoya, he started off in lighter weights where he would have to, really.
You cannot recognize Virgil fight the waiting night. It's. I mean, you look at him, it's like wow, like he's like. I mean, he's committed. You got a very big point, but one of the things that he is committed to making weight. He's committed to his sport, the sport that he loves. Does he put that pressure onto himself? I don't really think that him and the father have that kind of relationship. I think his father was extremely concerned. If you heard him got interview, 2022 was the first time he said, "Man, I almost lost my kid." And I have a feeling they have been kind of inspecting this, but it's happening with all the stress and everything that goes on, a couple of weeks before the fight. So is that the trend? And I think you're right. You need to do some kind of bringing in some of the technology nowadays to see, okay, why is it happening on these days? Is it more of your mental stress that you want to? I don't know. But, at the end of the day, father-son relationship, they have the best relationship, and they care for both of them, and they're both competitive. And I think his father probably will push a little bit more for him to retire than even Virgil would think about it.
Well, I hope so, but I think he definitely needs some scientific research, like market
Absolutely.
research type testing to find out about this. What's it called?
Rapto.
For other people.
Rhabdo.
Yeah, reptos for other people potentially suffering it, other fighters potentially suffering in future, so you can have things in place to try and help them. And one thing I have to respect him for is him suffering from this and him still not trying to find a way to get a score, an even Steven or upper hand by taking something illegal. He's still doing it clean, and he's just smashing himself up. Because the thing is, even if he does fight again and he fights a rough and tumble guy, what is the damage done inside of his body to his organs already? There's going to come a time where in 2 years' time, he might be shot early doors because of what the suffering and grueling trauma his body has gone through with all these, these medical injuries, these health injuries, unfortunately. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I guess what I have a hard time struggling with here is was the whole thing of this just being like a quick onset. Like there had to have been like warning signs. Like they have to have looked at him in camp. That he had to have had some look flat or whatever. Something. You can't just miss this. Like, you know what I mean? It seems to me like there was some type of maybe negligence here. Maybe I'm speculating. But I don't know, man.
No, I do feel that way too.
How do you not see this though? Like,
I just don't know.
All of a sudden, you wait for the guy to faint and get hospitalized. Before,
what I don't know is if you have any signs of that condition, even when you feel like the doctor's giving you the okay to go and start working out, and that was the case. Doctor says he should be fine, should be good. I'm assuming they have been monitoring him, especially his kidney, because we know for a fact that's where the disease directly attacks. And so that's what I'm thinking. So is it something that happens unexpectedly that you don't feel any symptoms? Or do you get those kind of signs that allows you to say, well...
Here's the thing, Manny. Because I had some metabolic tests done because I thought I had something. I thought I had a kidney issue because I had some pain down there, right? And I had the urinalysis, right? And sometimes if you have some muscle stress down there from overtraining or whatever, it mimics some of those symptoms, right? Mm-hmm. And I was doing research on it, and it's symptomatic. Like you start feeling abdominal pain, you start feeling lower back pain. When you urinate, it hurts you a little bit. So, I'm just saying to myself, if I know my son and he's training, and maybe this is going on because this is symptomatic. A lot of this stuff when you have protein and electrolytes in the blood, it's kind of ongoing. It's lingering symptoms and side effects, and I'm sitting there saying to myself, they have to couldn't they have seen like this guy's off, like something's wrong right now, and did they just try to push him through this camp? Again, I don't know for sure, but I'm kind of questioning if something was not done the right way here, if they were doing their due diligence, or if they were just trying to push him through, sort of like what Tio's dad did to him. Like he knew something was wrong, but he still put him in that fucking fight.
But here's the thing, B. Like, I get exactly what you're saying, but from the perspective of Stanionis and the fans, does it even matter? Because now the reputation is that it is what everybody's saying, right? So if you're Stanionis and Golden Boy, calls you Monday and says, okay, well, they got it under control and we're going to go ahead and try to do this thing for October, get ready. It's going to happen. We're going to get Dallas and we're going to do it at Fort Worth. No, that's it. I'm sorry.
For two reasons. No, for two reasons. Number one, I don't even know what we're going to postpone it again.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And here's the other reason. Yeah, look at that illness. I don't want to be the dude that killed that guy.
Well, right? I didn't even think of that.
Not to mention, anytime that you're out there building a camp, it's money that these boxers are spending. And if you don't have major contracts with any kind of sponsorships or whatever that actually can help you offset those bills you got to pay, it's money. So I would, if I was Stanionis, for you two guys' reason, but also I ain't losing more money and I'm not going to be that guy. Absolutely.
And is he still living in Lithuania, Stanionis?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
guess.
well, if he is, so that the bread
He was
ain't
in
really
San Antonio. He was in San Antonio.
okay. But
I guess
I don't know his sponsorship deal, but he's been inactive because he's thinking he's been scheduled to fight Ortiz how many times now?
3.
And
Or this is the
and
third.
I think that also because Ortiz has been inactive, people in his team could say, "Hey man, you can't pull out this fight. Everyone's gonna say you're ducking, and we need this man. We need this." But the difference is, you ain't fighting Michael McKinson, son. You're fighting Stanionis. Stanionis can do serious damage to you. Michael McKinson, yeah, they probably pushed him through that camp, and he got through it because Michael McKinson can't punch. So yeah, you can do that, but you can't go in there with guys like Stanionis, Butayev, Boots Ennis. You're gonna get starched, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think they did probably pressure him to go that extra mile because you ain't just dropping down on fight week. There would have been signs where he would have been saying, "Hey, I don't feel too good, I feel a bit funny. Hey, kid, you gotta get through it. We need this, man. You can't pull out. You've got Boots head. Do you want him to take over? Do you want to Do you want to be that guy?"
That would be so unfair.
There's 6 sharks out here in this boxing game, man. So
I guess what we're like I said, not to sound redundant, but what set me off was just De La Hoya tweeting out, "Oh, we're just gonna move up to 150. We're just gonna move up to 154, and everything's gonna be okay." Like you don't know what the fuck's going on, Oscar. Just let the guy get some rest and figure it out before you start making announcements. That's what set me off. It's like, are they really taking this seriously over there? Is what I'm saying.
I mean, that's like somebody cutting me with a machete, and then Beef comes. Oh, I have a Band-Aid. Here you go.
Yeah, that's my
business. Business.
And Manny, you're right, because I don't know. This is pure speculation on my part, but
not only that, we know for a fact that De La Hoya and the zone it's just not making it for him. Even the zone when Canelo left, Eddie Hearn and the zone took some hits into that. And right now, if you think about it, the zone who just paid $243.85. That hurt. And then I'm expecting a big fight, but I had to get Canelo pay-per-view. I had to get the other pay-per-view. So what am I paying for my money to as well?
Yeah.
So this is a big hit that stress level has to go to someone, has to go to De La Hoya. And then the commitment of an individual who he is an amazing human being, he's going to be touched by that. You can't manipulate him with that, but he's going to be touched by that. And he is good and he can do it. Is there symptoms? That's what I want to know. I can't wait to see him, man, because I definitely want to ask him.
Look, I just wanted to say this. So, look, obviously we're kind of bashing Austria a little bit, and rightfully so, in my opinion. But also just to give credit where credit is due, when promoters do something right. So his name was Francisco Esparza in Alacran. He just had a couple dozen fights. They were going to sign him to a 3-fight deal, but before they signed him, Top Rank made him do some tests. One of them was an MRI, and that's when they found, I believe it was like a hole in the brain, and he had to retire, right? But now, does Top Rank have to spend money to do that and pay for it? Yes, right? But it's a lot better than not doing it, and it's something happens in the ring, right? And I think all promoters, especially these promoters are making millions every year. You could do these tests. Austria could afford, Golden Boy could afford to do some serious testing for Virgil, and for they themselves could look after themselves as well, right?
Dude, we got the most amazing hospital here, Baylor here in Dallas. Dallas, I mean, I'm sure he's taken care of, and I'm sure he feels good, and I'm sure he doesn't have any symptoms. Because I saw him about 2 months ago, right after the fight was announced. I saw him jogging around here. You see what I'm saying? And nothing. That's what I'm,
Oh, I hope you're right, Manny.
I hope so.
I would rather you be right than me be right. So I'm not. Yeah. This isn't a question of me wanting to be right. I hope you're right.
He could be just walking like that or running, and then he collapses.
And that's the thing about it, right? It's like he maybe be in a position where he can, do exercise and physically exert himself to a certain extent. But the difference between us going to the gym and working really hard and an athlete that performs in the kind of sport that deals with stamina like a boxing, that kind of work is just
It's
different,
a
and
lot.
it could hurt the body more. So you're absolutely right.
All right, let's move on to the next topic here. I know a lot of people have already talked about this, but I kind of want to get you guys' perspective on this. So that's why I put this in the topics. Jaron Anderson, Charles Martin last Saturday. I know we made predictions on this fight last Thursday, and all of us said, Anderson's going to blow him out 2-3 rounds, whatever, and that was not the case. And as a result of that not being the case, Jaron Anderson's getting a lot of criticism. So start with you, Manny. Is the criticism warranted? I mean, I had him winning, I think, 8-2 on my card. Very one-sided fight. He had one little scare in the fight, in my opinion. Is that enough to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater here?
I mean, everyone's entitled to one bad fight, one bad night. I mean, we don't box, right? But we have our jobs, and sometimes do you perform 100% every single fucking day? No. So styles makes fights too as well. I mean, Charles Martin, not a whole lot as pertains to the resume, but he's a boxer that trains well, and he can definitely took the best out of Anderson. And so for him, it's like Boots' last fight. Take this fight, learn from your mistakes, and then come back stronger because, he is. And this is the thing too, man. When these promoters and people, they start bringing these boxers up and hyping them up and the next undisputed and this and that, he's got a lot of ways to go to even try to get close to Tyson Fury or Wilder or any of these top 5, heavyweights. But at the same time, keep working. Keep your craft. I mean, you can't expect to knock out every single fighter. How the heck are you going to learn? I told this to people and I said, listen, this specific boxer can box. The problem is we haven't seen him. When he collapses, people are going to say, oh, done deal. He's nobody. And that's Edgar Berlanga. No one gave him a chance to see how he can perform with a much better caliber boxer, right? Past 16 fights, and now people are starting to see, that's the only way that you can perfect your craft is by lacking in certain areas, by not having the best of the fight. But did you overcome that, right? Did you have to take your game plan and switch it around? There's some boxers out there who can't do that. They stay with plan A, all right, and they just don't look to the side. And you see coaches and trainers telling them something to do different, and I did see that in Anderson. And so I saw what I needed to see from him. I wasn't expecting, I think I said 8th round knockout or something like that, just to kind of be with everyone else, because it is expected. But I'm glad we get people shocked this way, because not every fight you can win them in a knockout. I would rather see a boxing clinic in the ring rather than just paying $80 or $60 when Tyson came in for 20 seconds. Does that make sense? So, yes, I'm still hyped about him. I think he needs to take the bull part of it and really grab it by the horns and learn exactly what he needs to do to stay in top elite shape, because up there there's no joke at all. And to be honest, there's also someone around on the other side in China that this guy's been making also statement and Zhang up there. So that's someone that you can't definitely eventually think of. And these are getting to that level, and where we're gonna find out, do you belong there? I think he does belong, but I want to see him tested over and over.
So Danny, so many times when we see these young guys coming up, we ask ourselves, how are they going to react when they face adversity? And he faced adversity and he came through it. Do you think he answered some questions, Danny?
I think he did, and I don't see anything wrong with that performance. I think the problem is with a lot of these boxing fans these days, they just watch, they read a bit of Michael Benson, they don't really actually study the history of boxing. If you look at Mike Tyson, he went to points early in his career quite a few times. Lennox Lewis did. Tyson Fury got put on the floor by Nevin Pajic, who ain't no puncher. Had 3 knockouts in about 27 fights. He also got dropped by a cruiserweight, Steve Cunningham. You've seen how he's turned out to be. What is with Jaron Ennis building up to this fight, homecoming, a lot of build up. People are starting to catch on to him. Us guys, we probably knew about him, say, 18 months, 2 years ago, but now he's been pushed in the mainstream. He was on Sky Sports. He had shows coming out over here in the UK. The thing with Roy Jones, where he's saying the pressure and stuff like that. He's 20. I'm only 23. All that's being put onto him. He's now being thrown under the big headlights. It's kind of like as Boots Ennis when he got thrown into the main spot. You don't perform the same reason. Remember, someone who's a seasoned champion like Regis Prograis. Oh man, I ain't fighting in my hometown next fight, man. It just felt so different. Oh, the pressure's too much. So someone like Jaron Ennis, people saying, Gerard Anderson, people saying, oh, Charles Martin should have got blown away in 2-3 rounds. Charles Martin is not the same guy who fought Anthony Joshua how many years ago, who was, smoking weed and he only won the title because the what's his name? The guy stepped forward and broke his knee just in some freak accident. So it's not like he threw a punch to win the title. But since then, he's gone on to fight guys like Adam Kaunaki when Adam Kaunaki was Adam Kaunaki. Went on to knock out Gerald Washington. He's fought Luis Ortiz and dropped Luis Ortiz. Was beating him until he got caught on the ropes and just pummeled to smithereens. So this guy is now a wily old veteran compared to someone like Jared Anderson. He knows all the tricks. He's seen all the moves. He's been in with all these different styles. Gerard Anderson has also been in with a southpaw who's tall and was a lot physically bigger. When you looked at Charles Martin compared to Big Baby Anderson, he's Big Baby Anderson, but Charles Martin, he had a more manly, uncle-like physique compared to Gerard Anderson. And remember, Gerard Anderson still switched southpaw and caught him with an overhand right hook, which dropped him. He was still, landing a lot of good jabs, dominated 9 out of 10 rounds, good 10 rounds in the bank, rather than blowing out a guy like Jerry Forrest in a couple of rounds. So everyone's thinking you just meant to just breeze through everybody. No, it doesn't work like that. As my guy Manny said, you've got to have things in the fight where you do say to the reporters or the interviewers afterwards, yeah, man, there's some things I need to go to the joint. I need to go into the gym and work on a few things and work on this and work on that, rather than you just smacking guys out and there's nothing to work on in the gym because you haven't been through anything or nothing got put to you where you thought, oh, I need to tighten up this. I need to work on maybe doing this angle. I need to work on maybe not pulling my head back in close quarters and maybe trying to slip and slide and dive under, because when I did pull my head back, I got caught with a straight left hand, not once, but also in the last round, which kind of buckled me. So if I fight a southpaw again, I know not to do that again. But if you're just going around steamrolling people, then you ain't gonna learn nothing. You ain't gonna think. And that is when you get complacent, start relying on your power too much, because he had 14 fights, 14 knockouts. You start becoming like a Deontay Wilder, where you think, they need to be good for the whole 36 minutes. I just need to be good for 2 seconds. No, that's when you become a crop of sunshine. So I think this was the perfect fight and a perfect result for him.
Good learning experience, Mario. Is this one of those fights where you get it under your belt and you say, I got past it, and now I know moving forward how I'm going to react when I face situations like this? Is that what it's all about?
That is what it's all about. And, that's the big question. I think that I feel somewhere in the middle between Manny and Danny. I think Manny made it clear that we saw some flaws that we hadn't seen before. But then when you think about his opponent, it makes sense. But I also agree with Danny. I think people vastly overreacted to him just not looking like a juggernaut. If every time he goes out, he's expected to just dominate and knock out fighters, then you know what? You're just going to be disappointed with him all the time. Because once he gets to that top level, he's not going to win fights like he's been winning. Not all of them. I promise you, not that. So to look at the fight in retrospect, I think Charles Martin really only had like 1 or 2 great rounds. I think it was the 4th, right? Or no, the 5th, where he landed that series of lefts, and then he landed that big shot that looked like it hurt Jared. But Jared was making a lot of mistakes, mistakes that are correctable. He was going straight back a lot. He didn't really use his legs to combat Martin. What Martin did really well was exactly what Manny said. He old schooled him. He used the techniques and his ability and his knowledge of the fight game, and he exploited the younger fighter. He moved in circles around him. He didn't outbox him. He didn't box circles around him, but he managed to stay out of the most harmful fight script for him. And that's what you have to expect from a guy like that. Look, I'll be honest. I'd like to think that if Charles Martin was the original opponent and both men had the exact same amount of time to prepare, I don't know even how bad I think this fight was. The fact that he was a last minute replacement, whatever, and the fact that it seemed like Jared was primed to have a big night, that was the deflation of it all. But those little mistakes that he made, again, those are correctable. I feel like he made adjustments as well. I feel like there were some positives there that he was able to show, subtle positives. They aren't the casual ESPN on a, Saturday night at midnight at the bar, watching the highlights and watching the top 10. No, it wasn't that, but he came out and made adjustments, little adjustments, and those types of things are going to count. And going back to what you asked, now we're going to move forward and we're going to see what he learns from this. You see, I'm more excited today for Jared Anderson because he got that fight, because he now is aware that at this level, the higher that he goes, he has to be prepared to bring out more, and so the knockout streak and all that, it was never going to stay. Those things don't last in boxing. They're fleeting. Fighters learning from their mistakes, that's what lasts.
Yep.
Exactly. And also, sorry, I'll have to add that people are moaning because Charles Martin was seen as a late replacement. But if you saw Charles Martin on them weighing scales, that ain't a man that really came in at late replacement. He was in better shape than I've seen him in years.
Good call.
Yep. He was.
So D-Style, have you sold your Jared Anderson stock yet, or are you holding on to it?
I think everyone needs to understand, and this is me included, by the way. Sometimes a fighter performs, right? He has a performance, and it's not what we expected. And then we punish that fighter because he didn't live up to our expectations. You know what I mean? So I was here saying, he's going to knock him out in 3 rounds. And since he didn't knock him out in 3 rounds, right? My initial reaction was, oh, man, what a terrible performance. But was it a terrible performance? I saw that this did more for him, right? And this is where I agree with Danny. This did more for him than if he would have knocked him out in the 2nd round. Because that wouldn't have done anything for him. If Martin came out of shape, just came to collect the check, and he knocks him out in the 2nd round, it looks good on paper. Oh, wow, we knocked out a former world champion. And let's say he did it faster than AJ. Oh, you knocked him out faster than AJ did, and blah, blah, blah. That wouldn't have done, other than the hype, it wouldn't have done anything for him. And hype is nothing but hot air anyway. Okay? So the fact that he got hurt, right? And we saw him react appropriately, he survived it, and he got out of that situation in the heavyweight division, mind you, where it's the one division where anyone can knock anybody out, right? Mm-hmm. So he got hurt in the 12th as well, by the way, and I believe he only got hurt in the 12th. He was trying to close the show, and he got more careless, right? But I think it was a combination of a lot of things, but he needs to go through those growing pains. People forget he's 23 years old. He's young. He's relatively young.
Big baby.
And for the heavyweight division, that is young, right? It's look at all the heavyweights when they reached their apex, right? Most of them was near or after their 30s, right? So a lot of them had a renaissance of a career after setbacks. They come back in their 30s and have a great career after that,
Great
right?
point.
So heavyweights seem to grow better like fine wine, like with time. Now that's not. There's going to be exceptions to the rules, like maybe Iron Mike Tyson. There's some exceptions, but in his case, I think he showed me everything I need to see. Remember, I named them earlier, right? Boone hurt and dropped Andre Ward, right? And I still remember when that happened, people were already saying, "Oh, this gold medalist is a bust. He ain't gonna make it." Blah blah blah. Right? And look at what happened. I mean, he went on to do some great stuff, Andre Ward. Right? Don't forget, Tyson Fury struggled and got dropped by Cunningham, a cruiserweight.
It's a fluke.
Look at what he went on and did. If Martin would have dropped him and hurt him in that fashion, we wouldn't hear the end of it, right? So like we can't just count guys out. I believe didn't Wilder get hurt like early in his career?
Yeah, by that what was that guy's name?
Yeah, like guys get hurt. So I saw behavior, right, that I liked. I did. And I'm not ready to count the guy out because he got hurt in the 5th. Like, I mean, it's like, and I'm not ready to count him out because he didn't live up to our expectations, right? And boxing is not a beat the clock challenge, right? So I'm seeing people, but look at what AJ did. Okay, well, that's what AJ did.
Good for him. Yeah.
You know what I mean? AJ did that. AJ's also a former unified world champion.
More exactly.
You know I mean? So that's the highest level. So I'm just saying, like, let's just put it in proper perspective. And we should be talking about Jaron Anderson. And look, and I'm pumping my brakes. I was saying he's ready for the top 5. I was wrong. No, he's not. Right? But I could change my opinion based on this. But look, anybody outside the top 10, I think he could face somebody like that.
The problem is that what I said earlier, they try to bring him up too high. You know what I mean? And so when you look at their opponents, he's been the only one. Charles Martin's been the only one that's been a huge step up from the rest of the pack. Okay, so we have to take that in consideration too. Even though if it's a last-minute opponent too as well, in where you're adapted yourself to a training camp, now you got to switch, and those are the things that unexpectedly I finally see that. And I never said that he was ready yet. He's not ready yet. There's just so many of right now bigger fights that are happening for world title, and especially Usyk gets most of them, and Anderson's not going to get an Usyk fight. Come on, guys. Let's just be realistic. And on the meantime, as your competition steps up, now it's the time for you to come in and prove that you're going to be that big baby at the heavyweights. You know what I mean? So he's not ready. You're absolutely right. I've never seen him ready. He needs to fight more guys and more former champions. And not only that, was it the stamina at the last round when he got hit? He got careless. He wanted to finish it. Is that something he needs to work on as well? Right? Not get too excited. Right? Problem is that, Jaron Anderson can beat anyone. He could beat Luis Ortiz. Oh, no, he can't. You see what I'm saying? Oh, he could beat AJ. Oh, no, he can't because he couldn't beat Charles Martin the way they did it. And that's BS. We just got to measure apples to apples. And some people just expect so much at a young state into the career that they don't give them opportunity to develop. That's the shit.
Shout out to... Go ahead, Danny. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and you have to remember he's 23, so, he should be, they can hold him back and make him fight another 4 or 5 years when he's 27, 28 for a title. By then, all those big boys, they'll be gone. Even Makhmudov, who's meant to be a prospect, he might be looking on his way out by then because he's quite old already. So by then, he'll be coming up with the new pack, and by then he should be ready because he'd have had a wealth of experience.
That's true. Shout out to Luis Puente. He says he has to develop. We don't need another Berlanga. Okay. I mean, it's kind of similar to the way the hype's been put upon him. Both have high expectations from a lot of the fans. So let's segue into another fight this past weekend. Savanah Marshall, Franchon Crews Dezurn. It's kind of a sloppy fight in my opinion. It wasn't a terribly entertaining fight to watch, but it had its moments and the scorecards were all over the place. I personally thought that Marshall won 8 of the 10 rounds. Some people had it close. I just didn't see it that way. But what's being said now is what's next, right? And Claressa Shields is the one, right? They want that rematch. Claressa Shields wants that rematch. She said she'll do it at 168. there's kind of back and forth on whether or not she wants to do it in the UK, but I think cooler heads will prevail, and I think she will end up probably do it in the UK. I think it's a no-brainer. I think I don't see anywhere else she could go. But the big question I have is, will the fight be any different at 168? Because Marshall is the bigger woman, and she seemed to look really good at 168 in terms of carrying the weight. She didn't look sluggish at all. Do you think this is a different fight at 168, Claressa Shields versus Savanah Marshall D-style? Would you give Marshall more of a shot at the higher weight?
Well, look, contrary to quote-unquote popular belief, I thought the Marshall-Shields fight was very close. I had Shields winning, right? I thought she won, but I thought that was a very competitive fight. And I believe Shields is doing herself a disservice by just today tweeted out, like, I already beat Savannah. I'm looking for more challenges. Like, what? There's Green and Marshall. That's it. There's nobody else. Like, I don't know where you're looking. I don't know who's, like, I have no idea. Maybe there's a girl prospect out there. Maybe there's something going to turn pro after the Olympics. I don't know. But as of right now, those are your Hectors if you're Achilles. All right. So, is it a different fight? Not really. I mean, I don't believe so. I just don't think it's a different fight. I think they'll both make weight more comfortably, but I think on fight night they're going to be the same fighter, in my opinion, and when they're in the ring. And I think what's going to make the difference for me, anyway, is the game plan. Like, what adjustments is Savannah going to make to maybe give Clarissa more problems? And I believe she has to take more risk early, which means take more firepower and take that risk of maybe Shields hurting you, knocking you out early, maybe, right? Or hurting you, but you have to kind of do that to close that gap. Like, force those exchanges a little more. And that's, in my opinion, and maybe find a way to fight taller. I think that another problem with Savannah, she crouches a lot. She did it in this fight. I think I would like to see her use her height more. But I don't know. We're going to get that fight for a different reason. Green looks really good, and I'm not sure Savannah can beat her.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like it's hard. The thing with the women's divisions, it's hard to gauge because it could easily be a halo effect. Like, she's destroying these girls, but like Savannah was destroying everybody before Shields, right? So, and then the fight with Crews, she won convincingly, but she didn't destroy her in 3-4 rounds, right? So it's hard to tell, but that's the fight that people need to look at and the winner of that fight could definitely get the Shields fight, and she's a mandatory anyway. So I don't know if we get the Marshall rematch, to be honest, because of that. But hey, we'll see.
What do you think, Danny? Did you see anything on Saturday that you think could probably maybe make you think that Savannah has a shot against Claressa Shields at 168 in the rematch?
No, she was still doing the same thing where she does this lean over jab thing, where it's like that kind of Tyson Fury type style. Her work rate is not. Her punches are slow. Clarissa, she wasn't, and it just shows you that what I was saying to people, why I always said Clarissa would beat her when everyone thought that Savannah would knock her out, is when you actually step up in the competition. Because with women's boxing, there's literally bottom of the barrel, top of the pops. There's no in-betweeners. So she was blasting out those women. As you could see, she couldn't hurt Clarissa. She couldn't hurt Franchon. So when you actually step up in competition, you're not able to hurt those women. And when she's not able to hurt women, she doesn't actually look good. She doesn't actually outbox anybody. So D-Star, I know you're saying she should use her height more, but if she uses her height more, she's going to generate even less power, and she's not going to be even as effective doing that. And I see Shadisa Green taking her out. But as you said, it's hard to gauge. Is she one of those ones also who's blasting out lower level competition? Because I remember there's a woman from Canada who was blasting out a lot of women. And then she ended up losing. I forgot her name off the top of my head. Junior middleweight, 154-pounder.
Oh, I know her too, yes. Oh, shit, I forget her name, yeah.
Yeah. So that woman like that. So and also I don't think that it has to be in the UK. I think it can be in America because Savanah Marshall likes to paint a narrative that Claressa Shields doesn't sell and she only be in a phone booth. But all right, it was 8,000 in the Manchester arena with Natasha Jonas on the undercard in the world title fights. He had 2 world title fights plus other good fights. Claressa Shields' last fight, there was 11,780 something, and she had a nobody undercard. So if Savannah goes over to America, you stick somewhere like Alicia Baumgardner on the undercard against somebody, you're going to have a good 15,000 people in there. So painting the narrative, you have to come to the UK to make fights. No, you don't necessarily have to, because Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor proved you could do stuff in Madison Square Garden with the right promotion and the right undercard and the right energy behind it. But Savannah, I think she's one of those ones who feels a bit homesick. She doesn't like to travel. Hence, she initially started up in America under TMT and then fled back to the UK to try and rest on her laurels. And I think she does suffer from confidence issues because Franchon, for all her crude style, she was able to get to Savannah mentally, and you could see Savannah's not the most confident person. So I think if Savannah was to fight Clarissa in America, where she's got all her dogs behind her, as we've seen some of Carissa's peeps, they're a bit street. I think Savannah would mentally crumble, and it'd probably be even a more convincing win than the first fight.
Gotcha. What do you think, Mario? Is Claressa Shields just too quick for her, regardless of the weight?
No, I don't think that's the case. I mean, yes, I do think that regardless of where they fight, she will keep an advantage in that, specific area. Sure, I'll admit that. But I think that what D said was probably how I feel the best. I don't think that it was I thought the fight was closer between Marshall and Claressa. I really did. Closer than most people saw it. And I think it was Matt Lieberman who wrote this. He said something like, regardless of how you scored it, Marshall left with her pound of flesh. And that's the best way to look at it, I think, is these 2 women can fight 10 times. And I think we would, see a exciting fight every time. And I wouldn't know who to pick. I think that Claressa got this one, but I do think that it could be a different fight at a higher weight class. I think it could be a different fight at the same weight class. I really don't think that these 2 are separated by much in terms of ability. Last thing I'll say is I do think Shadasia Green is a force that is going to have to be dealt with by somebody at some point. And I don't know when that point comes, whether Shadasia is going to be doing the dealing.
Okay. Shout out to Luis Puente again with the $2 super chat. He said, they look like 2 swimmers trying not to get drowned. Okay. Manny, what did you think of this fight, and any different thoughts that you may have after this fight with the rematch between Marshall and Shields?
I mean, pretty much I agree. I think that's the only thing that it's out there. And so being able to capture all the belts from Franchon, but by the way, it was a short reign she had. She had won that, was it early last year or this year? Something like that.
Yeah.
But to keep women's sports and boxing going the way it's been going lately, especially with some of these fights that, moving up in weight class. Look at Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor got beat in her backyard. You know what I mean? So moving up in weight, is that something that will benefit or not? It could be a slight advantage to some, but I think Clarissa is as talented as she is, and stubborn at times. I doubt she will take this. I think that she found it really tough to really get into a rhythm with Clarissa. She finally got into the rhythm. She knows that her style is one of the most difficult styles she has faced. So is it because of the money? Then I agree, D-style. This is where you're gonna get those big bucks right now. If you don't make it happen right now, then who else are you going to fight? Are you just gonna keep mandatories, whoever it is out there, or are you gonna continue to build big fights like it's been happening throughout this year and get that rematch going?
Savannah did learn a lot. I did see Savannah this weekend. Like really, for me, it was a very close fight. To be honest, I think
Okay.
it could have gone either way. If you
Okay.
ask me, I just sometimes when I watch Franchon, her punches are not as solid. I don't know. It's just there's not that boxing style that you could see into her, and this is why when I look at it, Savannah had a little bit more edge in certain rounds and stay active and busy. But she's gonna have to step up to Clarissa. And so that's what needs the fans needs to get excited to see if actually she can definitely dethrone him and become, if it's for the Clarissa spell, that'll be 2 undisputed. Is she moving up, or I'm not sure if they're gonna do a catch weight all the belts. I have no idea. But at the end of the day, watch out for the underdog because she wants this for a reason. They told her you need to go this route. She went and she became undisputed. And so what's next? I think it's a well-deserved rematch, especially there's nothing else for Clarissa in the horizon.
So I read this, I think this morning, actually. Keith Thurman could potentially face Yordenis Ugas in August. Both guys coming off of a long layoff and have a hard time picking a winner in this one. I think I would lean versus Ugas, but I just don't know at this point. I think it's tough. Danny, what do you think of this fight? Do you think it's a good fight? And who do you got winning? I know it's a little early, but who do you favor?
I'm favouring Ugas, mainly based on activity and recent form in showing in his more recent fights compared to Keith Thurman. If you're looking at Keith Thurman's last couple fights, the Barrios one wasn't really impressive. Got hurt. Looked probably did a lot worse a job than someone like Gervonta Davis. Obviously got beat by an old Pacquiao as well. Whereas Ugas, he had a good showing against Errol. He beat Manny Pacquiao. So yeah, I just think Ugas has a better run in form. Keith Thurman, I think he's done ever since he's cut his hair. He just lost the strength of Samson. Yeah. So yeah, I just see Ugas beating him. And if Ugas is smart, Ugas will go to the body early because Keith has always had a weak body, and at his age, it ain't gonna get any stronger. So I'd say Ugas should invest to the body early and try and take Keith out. I know Keith is very salty. He obviously was looking forward to having an Errol Spence fight. Obviously, him and Crawford, they've done their thing. So Thurman got left out in the cold somewhat. He was either, I heard talk, he was meant to fight Boots. He didn't want to fight Boots because he probably saw him as a bit too, energized and young for him. So I think this is a good fight. Keith and Ugas, they're around the same age, so it's a nice fair fight. And it's a good thing for the winner. Gets back into the picture a little bit, but it ain't really going to move the needle that much because, as we said, you spoke on earlier, Joe, for the next 12 to 18 months, the belts are all wrapped up, so there ain't no title shot. All right, they might stick a little interim thing or a little regular or, one of those little funny belts, but it's just something to keep active, earn some crust, and I think it'll be actually a fun fight because both of their styles are very engaging. You ain't going to get... They ain't negative fighters, are they? Let's be real. So I think we'll have a good night. But I pick Ugas to win. On points or take him out of a body shot late.
Gotcha. Mario, is this a good comeback fight for Keith Thurman? I mean, he's been off for, almost 2 years?
Yeah, I think it's... Yes, I do think it's good. And I'll tell you why. I think it's... The negative aspect of it is, as you said, I mean, the layoffs do things to athletes in all sports, but specifically boxing. You can spar and you can try to duplicate what's going to go in that ring outside of it as much as you want or as much as you can attempt. But that doesn't mean that you're getting that same quality, competition when you're standing across somebody who's trying to get work in as opposed to somebody who needs to take your head off. So it is a good fight. I do like the fight. And I'll be honest, I would love the fight if it wasn't rumored that it was going to be a pay-per-view. That's the problem that I have. August pay-per-view following the pay-per-views that we got coming up, or the pay-per-view that we got coming up, and then after as well with Canelo. It just doesn't seem like a fight to me that benefits fight fans being on a pay-per-view. And I also think that for two guys who, have lost some momentum, I think a little different, between Thurman and Ugas, but still both have, lost momentum, have been a little bit out of the limelight for a little bit. I think it's an important fight for both to be showcased on. And I think the most eyes that you can have on that fight is beneficial. Keeping it on pay-per-view doesn't help that.
Gotcha. Manny, what do you think of this one?
I like it. I do. Not bad. Doesn't bother me. To the contrary. Yes, pay-per-view does annoy me. But especially, knowing PBC that they not going to put anything behind it either. But I think the reality to this is both fighters are inactive. I was very surprised with Thurman. I've always been a Thurman fan. I think Thurman had one of the most amazing momentums coming in before that Pacquiao lost, and then he disappeared. 2 years afterwards, he comes back. I don't know where. No tune-up. No nothing. And fights a guy that just actually fought Gervonta Davis and was actually beating him before he got knocked out. So what I'm saying is an active fighter. Yes, you can say que el Azteca, he's a 135, 140, 147. Listen, the guy, it's healthy. It's in the best shape of his life. He has put some amazing performance, and he's eating a lot. They're feeding him a lot. Why? Because he's got what it takes to make others better. He's got what it takes of some of those boxers. They need the same competition as him to see how they can do it. Didn't Gervonta Davis learn about that one? A lot of people thought that Ryan was going to run over him because Ryan potentially could be better than Mario Barrios, right? So he impressed me a lot. So I'm like, Thurman, mentally he looks a lot better. Second is, I can't wait to see his performance. If he performed that way, and if he's still maintaining shape and still lay off right now the same time he did before, and he's going to perform that way against Ugas, which Ugas got that momentum too, became a world champion. He beat Manny Pacquiao. No one expected that one because after that, it was going to be the Spence and Pacquiao fight. That didn't happen. And Spence and Crawford, obviously, he lost to Ugas. And then Ugas gets the biggest opportunity in a lifetime right here, AT&T Stadium, in the home of Errol Spence. I think that if it wasn't for that eye, I think he could have at least tempted to him to just put it into perspective. He actually knocked down Spence. So
no, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Huh?
He didn't drop Spence.
I think when he knocked him into the ropes, arguably could have been called.
Arguably, it could have been a knockout because Spence was definitely hurt when he got in the ropes, and
I think the ropes looked like they held him.
He got protected. He got protected.
What
I
will say is he dropped Sean Porter.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
I mean, the performances that Ugas had. I mean, Omar Figueroa, Mike Dallas, Abraham, and Pacquiao. Those are four fights that no one gave Ugas a chance. He beats Pacquiao and gets a big opportunity. I think he's going to feed from that momentum too as well. I think he probably wants to become a world title again. I don't see a rematch ever going down with, I would say, Spence, but could be a Pacquiao. Pacquiao's contemplated to come back. Do you see what I'm saying? Could that be another big payday? And then Pacquiao can probably avenge that defeat. And I don't know. But the stakes are big for Ugas. I do agree with you, Danny. I kind of slight right now. You asked that question, man, and I don't know, man. But right now, I am slightly favoring Ugas, but I'm huge and I'm a big fan of Thurman, whether it's crazy or not. I might change my mind later on until I see how Thurman is actually looking, because when it comes to the boxing skills and the consistency, Thurman is good.
Yeah. Well, one thing we do know is Yordenis Ugas is no Mario Barrios D style. Is Keith Thurman biting off more than he can chew here? You're on mute, sir.
I would favor Ugas at this point, for sure. I mean, Thurman has not been that active at all. I mean, it's Mario Barrios, and before that, lost to Manny Pacquiao, and before that, he had a long layoff. Well, actually, he struggled like a lot with Josito Lopez, but then that was coming off a long layoff as well. I think Josito Lopez hurt him, Pacquiao hurt him, even Mario Barrios hurt him at one point. Yeah, so. And a lot of it is he was hurt to the body several times in those fights, like Danny pointed out. So,
Luis Collazo.
Well, what is that?
Luis Collazo hurt him to the body too.
Yeah, and that was when he was doing good, right? I mean, look, at this point, I would personally favor him, but Ugas, that is. But I will say this: this is the bad side of PBC. I mean, more than likely, it's going to be put on pay-per-view. And they have to put it on pay-per-view because the type of money specifically Thurman wants, Ugas has tasted some good money at this point as well. Sure. They're not going to fight. They're looking at each other saying, I ain't going to fight that dude for, I don't know how much you think I'm going to fight for, right? Yeah. And then the network is like, well, we ain't going to pay all that money to pay this guy, so that's why it's on pay-per-view, right? It's not that they just want to be assholes so they put it on pay-per-view, right? And then there's fans that ask why is it on pay? I don't understand. It's not a mega fight. Like guys, it's not rocket science, guys. It's not calculus, right? They want more money than the network is willing to pay for a TV fight. So what do they got to do? They got to put it on pay-per-view. That's why. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. Doesn't mean you don't get to criticize them. Doesn't mean you don't get to say they're asking for too much money. Doesn't mean you don't get to say the network should pay them. But just stop asking these questions that you know the answer to now, okay?
Yep.
Right? But it's a decent fight. But in a perfect world, this would be on the undercard of a Crawford-Spence fight or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a headliner. So let's wrap it up with the last topic of the night. I know we've been talking about this, but I want to kind of ask a hypothetical question because the big thing about why Jermall Charlo did not take this fight with Canelo was because of the long layoff and he wasn't ready. But let's just take all that out of the equation. Let's act as if all things were equal. Neither brother's coming off of any problems or any layoffs or whatever, right? And just let's look at these guys at their best, both Charlo brothers. I would argue that, regardless, in spite of all those things that I just mentioned, I still think Jermell is the better fighter of the two brothers. And I do think that the size between the two brothers is very comparable. So to me, I've said this is probably a tougher fight and even a better fight on paper for Canelo. I wanted to get you guys' opinion on this. I want to see if any of you disagree, or if you want to even add to why, if you agree with me, add to why you think that Jermell is the better fighter as well, or the better opponent as well. Start with you, Danny.
The reason why I think Jermell is the better opponent, he is the more certified brother when we're talking about the two brothers. You have to remember they're twins, so they're probably the same weight really and truly, but one has to always, from a kid, go down a weight lower than the other. And Jermell probably lost a coin toss or rock, scissors, paper, and he had to be that guy. But when you've seen that picture with him with the dreadlocks, he's bigger than Canelo. And people have to remember that Jermell is probably more mentally prepared for this fight than Jermall, because Jermell has been chasing this fight for years when him and Canelo were both world champions of 154 at the same damn time, when Canelo didn't really want that fight back then, when people said he ducked Jermell, he ducked Andrade. So now Jermell was finally getting it when no one expected it. This is why it came out of the blue, like, wow, we all thought Jermall, when Jermell was like, yeah, I've dreamed this into existence. Yeah, Jermell he's the more proven fighter, undisputed versus undisputed. Canelo is not a big 168 fighter. He can make 160 still if he really wanted. So Jermell was boiling himself down to 154. So really you're looking at two 160 pounders facing off at 168, or who knows, with all these vacant titles from Triple G, who knows if they're going to do it in the middle for some vacant belts, who knows. But I think this is a fair fight. Size will not be a factor. I expect Canelo to win on points, but this is what I say is a 60-40 type fight. And Jermall, I'd expect Canelo to stop him if he would have fought him. And I'm talking, this is before any of his family issues or whatever. I just think he's just not that guy. When you look at his last performance first. What's his name? Sacril. Montiel, that's the one. Montiel. He's just not like his brother at the end of the day. Jermell is the guy.
Yeah. Mario, is Jermell the alpha of the two brothers?
I don't know if he is the alpha, but it's starting to feel that way. And I will say that I do consider him the better fighter pound for pound. Now, looking at it based off of your logic, which I do agree with, being twins, being the fact that they don't look like they're separated by much weight, in all honesty, or size, I should say. So if that's all the case, then yeah, I think on paper and in reality, you're looking at the better of the two and thus the more dangerous fighter. Now, you can make the argument that Jermall fighting and being acclimated to a heavier weight, taking heavier shots, hitting guys, knowing the kind of power it takes, a weight class higher, puts him in a better position. But again, it boils down to which Charlo were they going to get on fight night? Because on fight night, he's going to get the Jermell Charlo who became unified 154 champion, right? But he's going to get the Jermall who has not fought in over 2 years and has had a couple shaky performances, specifically in his last fight. So I think ultimately what it looks like is that they made the proper decision. And I know, Beeb, you went on record as to saying that you thought it was the right decision from Jermall. And I am here to say, I think you're right. I think it was the right decision, the proper one, and the right guys fighting at the right time.
Yeah. D-Style, do you think people are missing the boat with this fight? Are they already complaining, trying to make it something it's not? I just think that this is going to be a good fight. I don't understand what people are missing.
Look, Mirage in the chat, and he's entitled to his opinion, but he said, let's put him in there with Haney next since Haney is taller. I don't think anyone is saying that it's just because of the height, right? They were both Canelo and Jermell, as Danny pointed out earlier, were both champions in the same weight class a couple of years ago, right? Like they come from, like they were champion. Their first weight class as a champion was in the same division, same freaking division. Haney just fought a guy that started at 126 pounds, who's small. I bet you Haney's much bigger than the size difference between Haney and Loma is far greater than Canelo and Jermell. But we got people out here complaining.
I agree.
We got like, you know what I mean? We got people out here complaining. You brought up the name, I'm just gonna give it to you like that. Okay? Now I know. Well, there's weight classes for a reason. Polymalnagia, there's weight classes for a reason. I don't understand. Well, why does it move up like that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because you fought Adrian Broner. He jumped up 2 weight classes and he beat you, Paulie. All right? So it has happened before. So don't throw stones in the glass house, because we know what happens. It shatters, right? Bernard Hopkins moved up 2 weight classes, and not only did he beat the conqueror of Roy Jones Jr., Antonio Tarver, he dominated that fight, all right? Fighters move up when they believe they could win, and there's a track record of that, okay? They don't move up and they think they're going to lose. Now, the argument might be, well, they might do it for a payday. Jermell's already living a luxurious life. He's already a millionaire. He's not that desperate for money, all right? He was going to make, nowhere near the amount against Canelo, but he was still going to make millions against, Tim Tszyu. So there was millions there for him. There was money there for him, right? So it's more than that. I do believe while he's there, not knowing the cameras are on him, and he's watching the Caleb Plant fight, he looks at his brother and he says, I could beat Canelo, right? When he called out Canelo to fight, I think he believes he could win this fight. Just like I thought, now it doesn't always work out. Cal Brook, Triple G, right? He moved up to weight classes. They don't work out for him, right? Mikey Garcia moved up to fight Errol Spence. Didn't work out for him, right? But at the end of the day, sometimes it does work out. Pacquiao gets the Loya, like, you know what I mean? Moved up to weight classes, beat him, all right? So at the end of the day, this is something that could be done, right? Has been done before. It's not that unprecedented as people think it is, right? It may not be common, but it's not unprecedented, right? I like this fight. Last week I was so negative about the Jermall fight. It left a bad taste in my mouth that the prospect that he was going to be fighting Jermall, a guy that hasn't fought in over 2 years, once in like 3.5 years. That the last time he fought against Montiel, he looked terrible in that fight, and then he's going to get a Canelo fight. Nah, you know what? Fighting an undisputed champion who has probably the best resume outside of Canelo in the whole. These two guys have the best 2 resumes in boxing right now.
Good point. That's a good point.
Like maybe you could throw Inoue in there. Inoue has a great resume himself, but look at the class we're talking about.
Yeah, Jermell's in there.
Jermell's there, and if you're going to tell me he doesn't deserve this opportunity, this chance of a lifetime, so I honestly believe only people that think this an easy fight for Canelo and don't want to see Canelo succeed hate this fight. Everyone else seems to be okay with this fight. I think Jermell has a decent shot in this fight. But call me crazy. I don't think on fight night when they're both in the ring, I don't think it's going to be that big of a size difference. Okay? I just don't. And that's the size that matters, not the scales. In the ring, when they're both in the ring, Canelo's been the smaller guy since the Khan fight. For every single one of his fights. So if you think he's the bigger guy in this fight, okay, once in how many years? Give me a break. All right? So I do think this is a good fight. I like this fight. Do I prefer the Benavidez fight? Yes, but this is a really good alternative in my opinion.
Is this the next best thing, Manny, as opposed to a Benavidez fight, in your opinion?
Hi, absolutely. I think it's perfect. I concur with you guys as it pertains to Jermall when the thing came out, and all the points that you guys have said here. I want to add something additional that I didn't really think about it, and when I thought about it at that moment, it's like, why is Jermall taking this fight? Besides the things that you guys said, he's going through a divorce. He's going to get the biggest payday of his life, and at 50%, where is it going to go? That makes sense. Not to mention, he's been known for having mental issues, injury, 2.5 years without fighting. Yeah, you got to move up one weight class, but that's fine. These guys walk around 170, 175, 180. All right, so that's not the issue here. I think the issue here was to get the right individual, the right person, and I believe those talks were with PBC. And so those of you that are not thinking that this is a good entrance to the PBC world, I don't know what the heck you're thinking. I asked this question to a lot of people, and they asked me. And I asked them, and I said, when you think of PBC, what do you think? Who do you think about the face of PBC? He's going directly to the face of PBC, to Charlos, Benavidez. Even Spence is probably in that mix because, hey, Spence is huge. Something about 2 weeks ago, I'm like, damn, this guy's going to get down to 147. He will. He was probably 160. Okay? So, taking in Jermell, which is proven to be the best of both guys, not to mention he's coming from 2 very brutal fights against Castaño, in where a lot of people did see Castaño winning that fight. They gave him, to the house fighter. That's fine. Well, both are house fighters, but they gave it to the favorite one. And then he comes back and does what he needed to do in a fashion way and knocking out Castaño. That's the last what we've seen. But that doesn't concern me, because if there's someone that's the most committed, the most healthy, and the guy that has accomplished more, that is Mel. Period. And then so I hear a lot of people talking, well, that's another cherry picking. I hear that cherry picking word so much that I just don't understand. I even asked, do you know what that means? Right? Have you taken a look at PBC's roster and you tell me, what do you expect when you come to PBC and your new stable?
You were expecting to fight 168 Caleb Truex? Or are you expecting the Chris Eubank? Oh, prospect Carlos Dalla, man. He should deserve a fight. David Morrell is out of the question. David Morrell is going to be the best son of a gun you can probably see in the future, but not now. Bubu Andre, Charlo, Benavidez. This is why he made 3-fight deal with PBC, and he's starting with the face of PBC and the better of the Charlos. Yes, they got it right. No, they made a mistake with Jermall, and they got it right with Mel. Bottom line, he's going to give him more trouble. He's going to test Canelo. A Canelo that, come on, let's be honest, man. It's peaking. It's coming down. Canelo's not at his peak. Yeah, John Ryder fight was very difficult for him. Very tight. You know, back home, homecoming, hadn't fought in Guadalajara as a pro. He did what he had to do win the fight, not in a fashion way. Maybe people were expecting a whole lot more like these style talks about. But at the end of the day, you're coming in any house and you're going to clean the house with the people that matter. Benavidez, listen, I'll say it again and I'll continue to say it. He's going to get the shot, but you're going to have to keep waiting. It was your fault you didn't make weight, you lost the title. Or it's your fault that you'd like to sniff that shit and you got stripped out of the belt. Come on. Let's be real. It's a 3-fight deal and it's not a tune-up. If I hear the word tune-up again, I mean, I don't know what the fuck you're watching, but you ain't watching boxing. This is the best fight that could happen at this moment. PBC's active as fuck. Derek James is going to be on it. I mean, what a better way to this year to PBC continue to do what they're doing, because they were falling apart and they were way behind, and they got great talent coming up. If you look at, they are stacked. And I haven't even mentioned one of the guys that I really like, Elijah Garcia. Great prospect. Ain't going to fight Canelo now. He's still building himself up. So when you look at right now what's happening, come on, guys. Let's do that. Undisputed against undisputed. I wish it would be for all titles, but it cannot happen. I'm curious to see what kind of rehydration clause will be put in place here. Because, yeah, we're doing 2 weight classes, but at the same time, Mel could be walking around 160, 168, but how much Canelo is going to go up? And Canelo is already used to that. And Mel relies on his speed and his power. He may get more power, but he's going to lose speed. So this is why I want to be able to see that, because there's going to be a lot of stuff inside that ring that both guys are going to start thinking all the way to the max to see how can they overcome that and eventually come out successful. Who am I picking right now? El Chingon. There's no doubt. There's no question. I think he's well more prepared. I think he's mentally where he needs to be. He doesn't give a fuck about what people say. And that's why he doesn't want to fight, Benavidez, because he wants people to be fucking around with him. Payday. You want payday? Heck yeah. Everyone wants a payday against El Chingon. Right? Wait your turn. It's going to happen. But right now, Mel is, I think, it's for me bigger than fighting Benavidez in my eyes.
All right. Well, that'll do it, guys. Thank everyone in the panel. Thank everyone in the chat. Great show. Great convo. And we will see you next Thursday. Have a good one, everybody.
Take care.